Hello everybody, welcome to Unit 3 about syntax. This is our lesson 11. We have gone a lot this year, and in this lesson we'll deal with universal grammar and parametric variations, and we'll start with the phrase structure in the other video. If we think about the branches of linguistics, we have already dealt with morphology, and we deal with the structure, internal structure of words. And now we go on with syntax. And syntax examines how words are combined to form larger grammatical units such as phrases, clauses, and sentences. So basically, in this unit, we're going to analyze phrases, we're going to analyze clauses and sentences in a deep and surface structure. It's very procedural. So you will need a lot of practice. There's not much theory, but yes, there's a lot of practice. And Grammar 1 is essential here. So I strongly suggest you to take all your notes from Grammar 1 and start refreshing that, okay? Franklin, Rodman, and Hyams say that the basic rules, syntax deals with basic rules and principles that enables speakers to recognize and produce syntactical structures. So we're going to deal also with those rules. We're going to analyze which are those rules, which are those basic and universal rules. Remember, universal grammar. Okay, that's why we're going to deal with that. O'Grady and Dobrowski, I don't know, states that syntax is the component which studies the system of rules and categories that underlie sentence formation in human language. Okay, and so we're going to deal again with those ideas of rules and categories. Okay, in learning languages. Another definition states that syntax is the branch of linguistics that seeks to describe the rules. Again, have a look here, some keywords. Like the rules, which enables us to recognize and generate an unlimited number of such units from a limited set of means. So remember that we worked with approaches for morphology, and it says that without words we cannot convey anything. Okay, but the question is why all those the course books are organize their syllabus in terms of grammar, because grammar allows us to generate an unlimited number of sentences, of units, yes, from a limited set of means. So the idea is that grammar multiplies, okay, and you can produce many unlimited number of sentences. And if we link this with the design features of language, we can connect it with productivity. Okay, so when we think of this, that we can recognize and generate, the words that have to come to your mind are competence and performance. Remember that? Again, we are linking didactics here. So competence is the knowledge native speakers have of the language they grew up with. And here is a very, very famous sentence that was coined by Chomsky, that colorless green ideas sleep furiously. So if you read this sentence, you say, well, it has no meaning. But grammatically, it's absolutely correct. And if you say furiously sleep ideas green colorless, we know that this sentence is ungrammatical. Yes, it's wrong because the order of the words in the sentence is wrong. So we, as speakers, proficient speakers of English, we are able to know and recognize that the first sentence is correct, whereas it has no meaning, it's meaningless, and the second one is incorrect. And performance, remember, is the actual language behavior. And we worked with in morphology with this idea that we're not able to remember all the words we read, but we're able to recognize more words that we're able to produce. Well, the same thing is the performance, the actual language behavior, and it's the ability to produce sentences. Chomsky, yes, expands this idea. He says competence is an internalized language, what the speaker knows about the language and where this knowledge comes from. It treats language as an internal property of the human mind. Yes, remember the language acquisition device. Language is a system represented in the mind brain of a particular individual. Okay, that is competence, internalized language. And performance corresponds to externalized language, that is the actual use of language in concrete situations. So we are linking all these ideas that we have already been dealing with, and it's based on the generative approach from Chomsky. Remember that when we started talking about schools of thought, I said that most of linguists dealt with phonology, with semantics, with morphology, but it was this area of syntax was quite neglected because it was very difficult. It was very hard to deal with. Yes, it was a great area. So Chomsky was the brave one who decided to work on this, and he was a kind of genius. So what generative grammar is, remember that we were talking about this idea of productivity, that we can create an unlimited number of words and sentences and ideas. So generative grammar consists of a small and finite, that is to say limited set of rules that will be capable of producing a large and potentially infinite, that is to say unlimited number of well-formed structures. That is generative grammar. So from a finite number of set of rules, we can create an infinite number of sentences. So it's generative because it can be used to generate, yes, have a look at this word, generate or produce sentence structures, and not just describe them. Okay, so generative approaches pay particular attention to the subconscious rules that constitute our competence. That was coined by Chomsky in 1950s. So the framework, and he studied and he devised what the principles and parameters framework in the 1970s. And this is what we're going to study, and this is where we're going to base, yes, our study of syntax, this part. So Chomsky's universal grammar, again, didactics. The UG is the system of principles, conditions, and rules. Principles, conditions, rules, very keywords, good keywords, that are elements or properties of all human languages. That is, those are the essence of human language, and we're going to see some of those universals, okay? It's a system of categories, mechanisms, and constraints shared by all human languages. Okay, very good definitions, according to Chomsky. Universal grammar provides the basic design for all human languages, and individual languages are simply variations on this basic design. This is in Fromkin and Brodmann. And Fromkin and Brodmann continues comparing with a house, that you have the plans of the house, and okay, there are basic things that all houses have, like a kitchen, like a bedroom. But then from this original, yes, plan, there are so many variations in the number of rooms and the yard, 2 bathrooms, 1 bathroom, an open kitchen, a closed kitchen. So there are many variations, but basically all houses in the world, okay, have similar plans. So generative approaches to language assume that there are general or universal principles that are common to all languages, and there are also individual parameters which differ from language to language. Remember the house. Okay, so universal grammar leaves room for variation, okay, allowing individual languages to differ with respect to certain parameters. A parameter might be considered as the set of options that universal grammar permits for a particular phenomenon. Then we're going to analyze which those parameters could be. And so we have the principles and parameter theory or framework coined by Chomsky, in which language knowledge consists of principles universal to all languages and parameters that vary from language to another language. So I hope after all these examples, after all these words, which are quite repetitive, that you got the idea, okay, of a principle and a parameter. Okay, so which are some of the universals? So wherever human exists, language exists, okay? So, and there are no primitive languages. So some people can say that Aboriginals have primitive language, and this is, no, there are no primitive languages. All languages have the same category. All languages are equally complex and equally capable of expressing any idea of the universe. So if we compare, for example, the Eskimos, that they say, well, they have 20 words for the snow, or 20 words, I don't know how many words to explain the color white, but it's because they need that, because of the context, okay? But it doesn't mean that we cannot do that in Spanish. The vocabulary of any language can be expanded to include new words for new concepts. It happens with technology, and all languages change through time. The relationship between the sounds and meanings of spoken languages are for the most part arbitrary. Another design feature of languages, it's like connected with that. All grammars contain rules of a similar kind for the formation of words and sentences. So this is what we're going to deal with, those rules, and what are the differences in those rules. And all languages have a list of third person and second person pronouns. All human languages use a finite set of discrete sounds or gestures that are combined to form meaningful elements of words. Okay, finite set of discrete sounds or gestures in the Kazakhstan language, which those discrete sounds are combined for meaningful elements of words, which themselves may be combined to form an infinite set of possible sentences. So, similar grammatical categories, noun and verbs, are found in all languages, wherever adjectives, for example, is a parameter, because in some languages they do not use adjectives, they do not have adjectives. So, nouns and verbs, okay, are found in all languages. Every language has a way of negating, forming questions, issuing commands, referring to past or future time, okay. There are universal semantic properties like male or female, animate or human found in every language in the world. Every spoken language includes discrete sound segments like P, N, or A that can be defined by a finite set of sound properties or features. So those are like sounds that are present in the languages. Another universal rule: speakers of all languages are capable of producing and comprehending an infinite set of sentences. Any normal child born anywhere in the world of any racial, geographical, social, or economic heritage is capable of learning any language to which he or she is exposed. This is another characteristic. No matter where you were born, no matter what language your parents speak, okay, you are able to learn any language. Yes. So, here we have some examples of parametric variations. When we start dealing with syntax and working with phrases and then with sentences, we're going to go on working and expanding these parametric variations. We are not going to learn all of them at this point. I'm just going to give you some examples. So we have variations in syntactic structures, in phrase structurables, and in the use of transformations, and in the word order. For example, a general principle states that declarative sentences must contain a subject, like in English, that they usually mention the subject of a sentence explicitly. It's there, whereas it may appear either explicitly or implicitly in another language, like in Spanish. For instance, we have the Italian sentence "Parla francese," she speaks French, is perfectly grammatical without an explicit subject. Habla francés, the corresponding parameter is known as the null subject. Is that clear? So that is a variation. Okay, in English and Spanish, in Spanish and Italian, for example. So the parameter is the null subject. Another, the possessor and possessed noun phrases, for example, Taro's sister, la hermana de Taro. Okay, so that is another parametric variation. Prepositions which come before modifying noun phrases and postpositions which follow the noun phrase. That, for example, happens in Japanese. Okay. Relative clauses can either precede or follow head nouns. Other parameters concern the position of syntactic elements with these sentences, such as the position of the verb, for example. Okay, so this is just for you to have an account, to have an idea on on what approach we're going to base our learning of of syntax. In the next video, I'm going to explain the phrase struct. Okay? I hope it was clear.